Good day mga ka-astro! It took a while before I was able to shoot and produce my first episode. Bukod sa first time kong lahat ng to, medyo busy tayo sa bahay. With great vacation comes with great responsibility, ika nga ng tropa nating taga Marbel. So, the astrophotography community has grown over the past few years, and especially sa Pilipinas. So, the first topic I decided is introduction to astrophotography. Ako si Sonic Duran, and you're watching Space Adobo. I mentioned the word vacation. Well, dahil sa recent turn of events, tayo naka-ECQ, naka-work from home, o yung iba, no work from home. So, nasa bahay lang halos lahat sa atin. So, mas naging aktibo tayong mga astronomy or astrophotography enthusiasts. Astrophotography, though, being a niche hobby, is slowly getting some attention. As nabanggit ko na rin kanina, no, the community has grown. As an example, let me mention our Facebook group, Astrophotography Philippines, right? So I learned that it only has 3,000 members in July 2018, and now I believe it's about to reach 30,000 before July 2020. Currently, while I'm shooting this video, it reached more than 28,000 na. I also found that we even have more and well-established groups. Each have their distinct profiles, but share the same passion, of course. Respectable organizations like the Philippine Astronomical Society, Astronomical League of the Philippines, yung university-based organizations, mga Astronomical Society ng UP Diliman, at Rizal Tech, syempre, at itong ISCAG School Astronomy Club sa amin, dyan sa Dasmariñas, Cavite. And definitely more sa ibang part ng bansa, hindi lang sa Luzon. I believe there are more in Visayas and Mindanao. If you know more, so please share to me by leaving a comment in this video, and I would love to check more about them. So without further ado, let me now go through the quick presentation I prepared for this episode, which is part 1 of my beginner's guide to astrophotography. The objective of this presentation is first to provide some basic definition of astrophotography, second, to explain what is needed in basic astrophotography, third, to illustrate what can be taken by different kinds of imaging device, and this episode will also showcase some of the work of our fellow astrophotographers in AstroPH Facebook group so you can better understand our today's topic. There will be common photography terms in this presentation. If you're not yet familiar with them, I suggest you go through the internet and check these terminologies so you can understand the topic faster. Let us now start by understanding what is astrophotography. According to howstuffworks.com, it is simply taking a photograph of an object in space, whether it's with a point-and-shoot camera, the Hubble Space Telescope, or any other type of camera. As described by Wikipedia, astrophotography is photography of astronomical objects, celestial events, and areas of the night sky. Another definition is that astrophotography has the ability to image objects invisible to the human eye, such as dim stars, nebulae, and galaxies. This is done by long-time exposure, since both film and digital cameras can accumulate in some light photons over these long periods of time. This is the Orion Constellation if we simply take a look at it with our bare eyes. Yes, we can see its 7 bright stars. Oh, no, not this eye, but this eye. We can see its 7 bright stars. Betelgeuse, Bellatrix, Rigel, Scythe, and for some, they can recognize these 3 stars over here, which in the Philippines we call Tatlong Maria. While this area over here can only be seen using a pair of binoculars or a simple telescope. Using a telescope, you will be able to see more stars on the area you will focus on. So for example, if you focus on Betelgeuse, you will see of course more stars here on Bellatrix, and so on. Or even in the
in this part of the constellation, you can even see more stars around it. You will no longer see this kind of image by simply using a telescope anymore. Because in astrophotography, you need images with long exposure. You need a tripod to prevent the camera from shaking. You also need to have a remote shutter to prevent the camera from any form of vibration. And of course, you need a computer and a stacking software to process the images. The image that you see on the background was taken using a Nikon D5500. Here I use a tripod and a phone app to control the shutter, and I have taken almost 100 of pictures. And of course, I used a computer and stack all the photos that I have taken. And the reason why we want to take a lot of pictures of the same object is because of noise. And as described by adorama.com, it's actually a visual distortion, and it gets worse when you're shooting at low light. But I would like to make this topic low and simple at this time, so please stand by for the next episode where I will also discuss about stacking and what it does. The Orion Constellation hosts three famous nebula: Orion, Horsehead, and Flame. This picture was taken using a DSLR and a tripod, and the gentleman who took this photo took almost 1,000 pictures of the same object. Compared to the background image, this is more magnified. As you see, uh, this nebula here is much more detailed, and the horse head here and flame nebula can already be seen than the picture here. You see, these are the Orion's belt, the three stars. Here is the Orion's belt, three stars, and it's somewhere over here. Well, this photo is more magnified. The Horsehead Nebula and Flame Nebula is much more bigger than this. This gentleman also used a DSLR, but he used what we call a star tracker. It's an equipment used to automatically track astronomical objects in the night sky. So it rotates at the same speed as Earth, but just in the opposite direction. Otherwise, the stars will trail. Because why? The camera cannot catch up the movement of the stars. Here's another magnified image of the Orion Nebula, but this time it's even bigger. This image was taken by myself using a telescope and a dedicated astro camera. It's even more magnified, so another type of tracker is needed. We will discuss more about this on the next episodes. Now let's move on to the imaging devices for astrophotography. Nowadays, smartphones offer more functionality in its cameras. Newer models can manually set settings such as ISO and shutter speed. Some uses a compact camera, and of course, DSLR with lens. And like me, I use a telescope with DSLR or a dedicated astro camera. I have created a table to guide you to see which astronomical objects can be taken using various kind of imaging device. Please do note that this is just a collection of information I was able to gather while I was just learning astrophotography like you. If you have seen more, kindly share to me and I will be more than glad to check them out and include here. But please do note that for solar imaging, I personally recommend to use a dedicated solar scope. Though this episode will also show a sample image, it's for the sake of completeness of this topic. Like you, while I was just learning astrophotography, I am curious how would an image look like if I use an equipment over the other. Now, let me show you the images of some of our fellow astrophotography enthusiasts in AstroPH Facebook group who is willing to share their work to help everyone learn astrophotography as well. Please note that any images that doesn't have watermark or name on are my own work. And a Facebook link is provided on the description of this video for each of them so you can check more information. So let's start with smartphones. This shot was actually a constellation of Orion, and this is actually a star trail of the North Star, Polaris. Well, this is Milky Way, using again just a smartphone. And this gentleman was able to collect different images of the faces of the moon and combine them together in one single photo. This is also an image that was taken by smartphone, and this was a Venus-Jupiter conjunction event. Capturing a bolide is very rare, and this young gentleman was able to get one using his smartphone. Well, this one is a comet flyby. The gentleman here used his smartphone together with a pair of binoculars. Well, this is a full moon taken by smartphone with a zoom function. And this one is actually a feast of astronomical objects. You can actually see star trail. Centered here is the Polaris here in the middle, and it's actually a Geminids meteor shower peak in December 2019. While this one is actually not a star trail or anything, or even a meteor, but it's actually just an airplane track. This is a collection of shots taken using a smartphone and a pair of binoculars, while this gentleman was able to shoot Jupiter with his smartphone using a small telescope. Now let's go with compact camera. Well, actually, if you can shoot small astronomical objects with just smartphone, why not compact camera, right? So this is a sample image of the constellation of Orion in a wide field here, and Milky Way, and a lunar eclipse. Well, this one is actually a planetary conjunction, Mercury and Venus. This is a picture of two birds. No, it's not. It's actually my photo. No, not my photo, but a photo where I used a compact camera with zoom lens. Now let's go to DSLR. This is the Orion Constellation, Milky Way, and this is actually a feast. This consists of three individual images. So first, this is a conjunction of Saturn and Mars. The gentleman was able to capture it, I believe, using a telephoto lens. But this Saturn image and Mars image here was even a longer telephoto lens. This is a comet flyby of Virtanen in 2018. The gentleman was able to shoot this along with the star cluster of Pleiades. And this is a moon photo. Well, it looks better than my moon shot earlier. This one is more detailed, but at least mine have two birds. This is a collection of single images during a solar eclipse. As I mentioned earlier, I recommend using a solar scope for solar imaging. For the sake of completeness, I am including this here. But please take note carefully that the gentleman who took this photo used a dedicated and a proper solar filter with his DSLR and his prime lens. Again, solar imaging is very dangerous. You need to be careful and you need to learn more about solar imaging. Well, this is a photo of Rho Ophi Uchi Cloud Complex. Tell you honestly, this is one of the astronomical terms that it's hard for me to pronounce. I would rather call it the Infinity Stones. Okay, so this is an image that you were able to see already. So Orion, Running Man Nebula, Horsehead, and Flaming Star Nebula, or Flame Nebula rather, I'm sorry. And another photo that you already saw earlier, a larger image or a more magnified image of the Horsehead Nebula and Flame Nebula. And this one is wow. The lady was able to shoot star trails and put it on a video time lapse. I recommend you take a look at the Facebook link that I provided and watch this very awesome star trail time lapse video. Well, this one is a very terrible photo of my camera while shooting a night sky object. As you see, this is pointed toward near this star here. So it was actually pointed somewhere here. And I only used my DSLR camera with a 50mm f1.8 lens sitting on a tripod. You want to know what I shoot during this evening? It's actually this, the background of this presentation, which is the southern Milky Way core. It was actually a surprise that I was able to shoot this one in a city. I believe our sky became darker because most night establishments were closed because of the pandemic, and the air quality was good because it was just after a long week of rain. Now let's go with telescopes. So this is a picture of a comet flyby named 21P Jacobini Zinner, if I pronounce it correctly. The gentleman here used a William Optic 71mm refractor telescope. His imaging camera is a modified Nikon D5300. Well, this is actually a moon photo that was taken by myself. I use my own telescope setup here. I use an 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain telescope with my dedicated astronomy camera. Of course, I can take pictures of Mars, of Jupiter, and Saturn. Well, this is a photo of Western Veil Nebula, which is also known as the Witch's Broom Nebula. The gentleman used a William Optics Z61 refractor, and he used a dedicated astronomy camera to take this image. Another deep sky object is the Orion Nebula, which I showed earlier. This is of course taken by myself using my telescope setup and my dedicated astronomy camera. There are some objects that I wasn't able to show in this episode, so alternatively, you may check them using our Facebook group page or simply Google it. And just to give you some tips on how to search them, actually you can search using just mention the object name and the imaging device. So for example, you want to search for star trails and using a mobile phone. So just type Star Trails Mobile either on our Facebook group page here or Google.
Thank you for watching my first official episode of Space Adobo. I never thought that it will be this long. I actually planned for just 12 to 15 minutes. Well, don't worry, actually, within this week I will be releasing another version of this episode, which is even longer. This is exclusive for my Facebook group, which is Astrophotography Philippines. So please stand by for that. And of course, I want to thank our fellow astrophotographers in Astrophotography Philippines for sharing their work for this topic. And thank you. Too many to mention. There's a lot of very, very nice photos. It's very hard for me to select which one. So I just scanned and then just grab which one would first pop up. Okay, there's a lot of very very beautiful images in our Facebook group and very very inspiring. So see you on my next episode, which is actually part 2 of my beginner's guide to astrophotography. Clear skies and ad astra.